I'm Kyla, and we're Cohasset-Connection. Apartheid in South Africa was a set of laws and social structures that dictated the lives of Africans. After the all-white National Party gained power in 1948, apartheid lasted for almost 50 years. Under their control, the seeds of apartheid began by the 1913 Land Act, which forced blacks onto reserves and did not allow them to work as sharecroppers, created racial reclassification and segregation. In response, the African National Congress (ANC) party was created. The actions of apartheid had significantly impacted the economy, society, and government of South Africa and failed to fulfill the promise of democratic overthrow. Prior to the overthrow, the migrant labor system provided an abundant, cheap African labor for white-owned mines, factories, and farms. Male migrants were prohibited from living in cities and towns designed for whites only. In addition, they were not allowed to bring their family, leading to breakdowns of families. In 1950, the Group Area Act allowed the government to forcibly remove people from areas not designated for their racial group. The removal of 3.5 million blacks from 1961 to 1994 was perhaps the most devastating government act. Black citizens were again pushed onto lands unsuitable for farming, while their land was sold off to white farmers at low prices. Under the Population Registration Act, citizens were classified by race into 4 categories: Bantu, colored, whites, and Asians. This allowed for the creation of the Mixed Marriage Act, prohibiting citizens from interracial marriages, later repealed under the de Klerk government after the new constitution took effect in 1994. The Reservation of Separation Amenities Act in 1953 limited the interaction of people in public facilities and the activity of non-white labor unions, allowing government to deny non-whites participation in the national government. Without a voice, black citizens were oppressed. The 1953 Bantu Education Act restricted the education of Bantu children beyond the need to perform manual labor jobs. This inequality allowed white children education until age 16, but black children were only educated until age 13. In addition, to ensure political suppression, the National Assembly limited the rights of South Africans, including banning leaders and newspapers that protested the government. Although many citizens resisted these actions through nonviolent protests, strikes, and armed resistance, there was little success. In 1956, ANC leaders who spoke about Freedom Charter were arrested and tried for treason. After the arrest of Nelson Mandela in 1963, help from the outside world began to put pressure on South Africa to end apartheid. Through economic sanctions, apartheid ended officially in South Africa. However, the extreme disadvantage that non-whites experienced during the apartheid has continued to affect lives. In the first 10 years after apartheid, South Africans experienced rising unemployment, increased poverty, and rising income inequality. While some of the goals continue to be addressed, South Africa is far from overcoming the concerns that marked the post-apartheid era. In 1994, a democratic constitution grounded in human rights outlined by the United Nations was implemented. However, it failed to address the problems of local government as the people struggled to reorganize themselves. The crime rate, income inequality, the spread of HIV and AIDS has become an increasing problem. While concerns about quality education have surfaced, the fact is little has changed. Student-teacher ratio is 1 to 18 for whites, but 1 to 39 for blacks. Equality improved education opportunities are limited, as wealthy citizens have created de facto segregation with growth of private all-white schools. In 2004, only 9% of adults were qualified in science and technology for skills-based jobs. This lack of education has negatively impacted the government's ability to fulfill the promise of the revolution. For many, the escape from poverty is only a dream. The mean poor household earned 11% below the $2 a day poverty level in 1995. By 2000, it had increased to 13%. Lack of competitive skills had led to a chronic unemployment, especially in urban areas. In 2010, unemployment was recorded at 26%, creating a Great Depression. Those with necessary skills often leave for more money, better benefits, and safer environment living, leaving a brain drain that impacts economic development, which would produce more jobs. The lack of education is directly linked to the high crime rate. Violent confrontational crime is a major concern. Such crimes include home invasion, nonviolent burglaries, and muggings, leaving Africa with one of the highest violent and nonviolent crime rates in the world. While these actions are a direct result of poverty, it is also a deterrent to foreign investors, which leads to fewer job opportunities and continued poverty. With the ending of apartheid, the government lifted the ban on all media, improving participation by citizens in local government. However, the AIDS and HIV epidemic has also led to an increase in demand on health and social services and a decrease in productivity. In conclusion, while affirming actions and social programs showed initial signs of working, the promise of equality for all has not been delivered.